clapping because he clapped. And I don't know why we started clapping that early because we're going to clap again real soon here. Welcome everybody to another amazing episode of JavaScript Utah Stack.js. So that all roll. Might have got my wires crossed there a little bit. Some other hosting I do. Anyway.
Felt like I was on podcast for a second.
Yeah.
Like Zig, no. Rest, no. Utah, no.
Don't know which one. Don't know which one. Anyway, thanks for coming out tonight. We know each other plenty, but for those that might one day perhaps see this online, thanks to Vivint for hosting, for providing the pizza, for Travis for being our host tonight, and thanks to Kaleb for showing up to present about Nitro so that we can be indoctrinated with yet one more JavaScript next generation server toolkit.
Yep.
And with that, I'll turn it over to you. Welcome.
Okay, yeah. So, Nitro. Woo. Are those images gonna stay there? Okay. No, I didn't put any like clicky things in there, so you just get bombarded with words.
That's good. That's what I like it.
So, Nitro is a framework to make node servers. It is fairly new. It's part of a thing called UnJS, and Nitro is kind of this cobbling together of a bunch of UnJS packages. And the thing with UnJS is that they're all supposed to work like universally across all runtimes. And like they even have like a
browser and server, or all server runtimes?
browser and server.
Okay.
Though not all of them do, but that is the goal. And like you can even see like how many. Oh. Okay, I guess you can't see. I'll show you that later. It's just a visualization they have. Actually, if we go out of. Why am I not moved out of full screen mode?
Nobody knows it. Nobody knows.
What's the shortcut? Did they change it in 15?
What?
To get out of full screen mode.
Escape, F11.
Normally I just hover up top and then it appears.
No, what the heck? I'm like, I swear I'm like pushing the buttons that I used to push.
Yeah, I might get rid of it.
What
I
the heck?
try escape and F11, but if those don't work,
When you don't pay for the product and it's forced upon you for free, quote, for free,
There we go.
meaning forced,
I guess you can't click links in full screen.
you don't get what you used to get. Oh, wow.
That's, there's Nitro, this little one right here. I'm like, whee!
Whenever you have one of these, you know you're going to get investment.
Yeah. It's,
That's
some
about
ways
a $100
it's
million
like,
company cooking right there.
it's like, some things are like zero dependency, and this is like, nah. We got all the dependencies. But they're all part of this ecosystem. And a lot of the same people work on them. Some of them are getting used in like Cloudflare is using a few of them now. Oh no. Oh, the lag. Okay, I'm gonna stop messing with that. Okay, so yeah, that was the visualization of like all the UnJS packages. It was started by the Nuxt team, which is the meta framework for Vue. Puya Parsa has kind of taken like ownership of it, or like he maintains it now. It's the part that does for routing is called H3. I'll kind of demo the rest of these.
Is it actually H3?
What do you mean?
Or is it HTTP 3?
No.
Oh.
It's H3 stands for HTTP.
What?
So H
That is-
and then 3 TTP.
That is the most dirty marketing that's been done in the last
I never
6
even
days.
thought of that.
In the browser, if you have an HTTP connection, you open up the vegetables. It's called H3. Yeah, HTTP3 is literally called H3.
I know. I saw that for the first time like 2 days
I have
ago.
no
and
doubt
I
that
didn't
it's
make that
intentional,
connection.
so that when people search for H3 and Node, they come up with this.
Well, they probably will.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's funny. I didn't know that.
I told you, $100 million investment.
Okay. No, we'll just move on because most of this is going to be a bunch of demos. So Nitro, it was introduced in Nux 3, but a lot of the new meta frameworks coming out are using it for their server component. So like a Solid with Solid Start, the TanStack Start for React from, I'm a little confused what that one's geared towards, but and then there's Analog, which is an Angular meta framework, and then Angular itself might be using it for their server thing. I'm a little confused what it is they provide, but it's on their roadmap to investigate it. And then Vinji is getting used by Solid, and it's kind of it seems like it's trying to be a make your own framework thing, because it does the Vite and Nitro part, and that's kind of like the most annoying part in my own playing around with things, is all the gluing things together. Yeah, so it's getting picked up by a couple promising projects. This is how it has a file system based routing, kind of like you would see in a lot of those meta frameworks.
Like Nux and stuff.
Yeah. So like you have like a routes folder, and then yeah, I feel like it's pretty explanatory.
So, okay, one thing I've been wondering about with these types of frameworks, how do you see the list of all your routes?
LS, yeah.
Well, but that's not going to give it to you because you're going to have some sort of sub route under people, or you just like you have to go to the one function per file thing, or what?
Something like that. I guess it depends on what you want to do with seeing all your routes. You can. I'll show it later, maybe. You can hook into like the route registration and get them all that way.
Okay.
But for like declaring them, it's all through the file system. And if you want to do things like middleware, you would. I don't think I have that demoed. But there's like a specific directory it checks for middleware, and then it will apply that function on all of the handlers. It kind of encourages not using middleware though.
Interesting. I'm anxious to hear about that. How you do authentication without middleware?
I believe the reasoning is to optimize like cold start times for like serverless infrastructures or lambdas.
Okay, I mean that.
That is another thing that Nitro is very much geared for, is like edge runtimes. There are some like rough edges introduced because of that, which I can talk more about during the demos. So this is like a very simple API handler might look like. Starts with a event handler, and if you notice, this is a function, but it does not get imported. It is available everywhere, but it is typed everywhere, and that's through auto imports, which I'll show later.
Is that where you
during
do
the
node
demos.
-r and then give it an import?
No, it's a bit of trickery with I don't know how to summarize it. They it knows the list of modules that you're going to be using, and it pulls
Angular
the types
black
out. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
It has trade-offs. I'm still iffy with it. With small projects, it's nice, but I worry with bigger projects, you get into like maintainability issues because you can't really just rename the function, you have to go and like update everywhere that's referenced, which is like, well, now we're back to the Stone Age. We're using TypeScript, but we can't refactor those kinds of things.
Have you heard of combing?
Combing?
Comby, C-O-M-B-Y. It's syntax-aware regex, essentially.
Oh, for like finding everything?
Yeah, you can
I see.
refactor. You can do really. You can make bad code look good
Oh,
through pattern matching.
interesting. So this is how you could do some like param validation. So this is validating the ID param up here. You can pass in like a validator from if you're using Zod, or I like to use Valibot, but here I'm just doing a function. So it returns this object, so I get that out of it, and then passing it to the Swappy API, which is a Star Wars API, just for demo. This $fetch is ofetch, which is another unJS package. It's essentially just fetch this and then await JSON on it. So this will be my JSON data. And then I return it, and I can return the array or object or whatever, and it gets JSON serialized automatically. So if I have that route where I'm getting a person, I might want to cache it so I don't like hit an API rate limit or something. So I can take that event handler and just add cached event handler, specify like a max age on it. By default, it'll cache things in memory. You can configure it to cache it into a whole bunch of different things they have providers for. So you can do that, or you can use a cached function, which is a little more like granular, to do the same thing, same cache.
Will you do that transition again? I want to see it. So the name changed there, and the fetch changed there, and the max age moved there.
Because it was
It's funny that it animated the max age and
I know.
1,000, but
The
not
thing that
60,
chooses to move is
160.
kind of weird.
Yeah.
But so like no caching with cached event handler, or caching just this function response with cache function.
I think I like that one best.
Yeah, and then there's another way, which is in the so there's a configuration for Nitro that you can set up, and in that you can pass route rules. So you can pass it like a glob, so that would get my /people/ID route, and then I can specify the cache rules there, and that's basically the same as if you had used the cached event handler here.
And that config file just lives like where V.
Yeah, it's like it's at the top of your project. And there's a lot of other cache options. You can do like header only caching, so it's just the HTTP headers. And then you can, there's a lot. I'm only touching like the surface in a lot of this.
No, this is good. This is good, right?
Well, I'll show more in-depth examples later. So the cache, by default, is in memory. In your Nitro, you can configure all of your storage options. So here I've changed the cache. That's just the default key. Every property in the storage will be a cache that you can use within the app. And here I've told it to use the Redis driver, and I'm like passing stuff. You would use like environment variables, of course, but so if I wanted to like keep track of people's favorite Star Wars characters, I can create a new storage object, and I'm going to use the file system for it, and I'll just go into a .data directory. and I'll go into a bunch of files in there. So if I want to use that, so I had my event handler from before. Oh, wait. Oh, I forgot to put in the transition for this one. I can just pull in that favorite storage right there. Oh, no, this is a new handler. My bad. This is on like a favorites route, where they give me the ID and I'm doing that same validation. You could pull that into another file, of course. That I think this is kind of an example of like where they don't. You might put something like this in the middleware. I'm not really sure. But not every route will need that, so why register it for every route? Or like, sometimes it's easier to just pull it in as you want. So yeah, so just to save the favorites, it's a key value store. So it's just key is the ID and the value is the response, which is my JSON that I got from here and did some massaging on it.
So that's the thing, storing in Redis?
This one, my favorite storage, this one is going into the file system.
Oh, okay.
I've configured the cache to go into Redis.
Okay.
But there is another feature, which is in server fetch. And this is kind of an interesting feature. And I had this idea with it. I don't know if it's a really good idea. I played around with it and it's kind of fun. So like if we have our like routes and our URLs, which are our uniform resource locators, like the resources should be like the same everywhere. Why not just reuse that? So I can use like my existing people route and get that JSON from there, and now we just do the same. It simplifies it a lot. But the benefit,
Before?
so like I'm doing my router validation and hitting the same API.
But the people is already doing the validation, so why redo it?
Yeah, so like what you would probably usually do is like, that would be in your controller or in like the MVC architecture. You'd probably pull in a controller that's like get people, and /people/ID would do get people, and /favorites/ID would also call get people. But you can kind of keep things in your routes and just reuse them, because when you do this, when you're fetching your own route, it's not actually doing an HTTP request. It's just calling the function, essentially. And so it kind of, yeah, I think that looks pretty nice. I did quite a bit with this in a hypermedia-driven app that I'll show in a bit. And yeah, it's interesting.
Cool.
All right, now demo time. Yes, open it. And this is where I'm going to change the display to just mirror this one. And hopefully I don't leak my env files. Okay. Okay.
Zoom and enhance.
Oh,
Thank you.
why are there like bars down the side? Okay, so this is the hypermedia app. I've got I've got my server here in the server folder. I changed that in my config. By default, it's just routes, I think. Those are all of my routes.
Is hypermedia a library, or are you using it in
The
as a
concept.
terminal? Okay.
Yeah. I'm actually using HTMX. I was trying to use Datastar, but I can talk about that later.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this is our root. So I would go to our index.ts file. You can see you can leave off the .get. That means just all method or all. Is it method that the right name?
Yeah.
We'll go to this handler. I'm doing a tag template kind of mark templating language. So yeah, so this is pulling in my comments, which I'm doing the in-server fetch to get my comments from this endpoint. And this one's using a storage that I've set up, and it's getting all of our the keys in that storage, and it's just giving them to me. Of course, if I ever get to the point where I'd want to paginate on that, then things get kind of hard with key value storage, but for this it's fine. Then there's kind of like, I think this looks messy. I was trying to find another template language, but I ran out of time. So this returns the comments. I have a form to like create a new comment. So you have to like log in. Yeah. So the way that this app is working, if you're familiar with hypermedia, or like that kind of that approach anyway, is that we're sending bits or like strings of HTML over HTTP. So if I hit this, so I hit that comment endpoint, I just got back that HTML that I was showing earlier.
So instead of a full HTML page, it's just the chunk that's relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm using a library called HTMX, which will like read through this response and then match it up with where I've told it to go through these attributes. So this one will, when this form submits, it'll do a request through HTMX. So some JavaScript from HTMX will do a post request, and then it'll insert the response into the comments ID, or the element with ID comments. So it'll just replace this whole thing here, and then you're good. See, this one I had some like a sign in authentication, like who I am. I guess so that's an example of like the auto imports. So like I have this use user function. It's not imported anywhere, but I can get the typing available for it. And like the go to definition works on it. If you notice, there's this other file, this Nitro imports.dts, and this is how auto imports, like where they actually work, is they just it took me out of it. They like take every single type definition and throw it in there. So yeah, it looks a bit crazy, but it works.
Who wants to drink from the fire hose?
Yeah.
So if in your d.ts file, you find a type that's not just a type. TypeScript knows, TypeScript can actually execute that function. That's not normal. That's not the normal TypeScript setup. It's like a
So
on top of TypeScript, right?
it'll scan certain directories. You can tell it more directories to look for. So it'll look for your route directories, your utils, and then there's a few other ones in there too. So that use user in this function, it's an export, so that's how it knows to find it.
Okay.
So I had another one. require user for like,
Where did the d.ts come in?
that is auto-generated by Nitro. So it scans these files, pulls all the definitions out, and like links to them in this .nitro generated folder that it does.
Gotcha. So you generally don't even look at that file.
Yeah, it's all in here, and then all you do is reference it in your own TS config. So you're like just kind of pointing to a bunch of things.
Gotcha.
So for to make a comment, you have to be signed in, and so I have this require user function to do like kind of authentication, and all that does is check that you have a session. And that is another thing that they provide is like a session management. You have to provide it like a 32 character long password, and then it hashes the session and just saves it all in a cookie. So you can see that here.
It's an HTTP only cookie.
Yep. Trying to think what else was in this demo. Oh, something I could show. So this is experimental. Oh, I was playing around with their WebSocket support, but I couldn't get a good demo. That's when I was doing the data star stuff. Because it was, yeah. You can do async context. And this is a newer node feature. I don't really know how it works, but it allows for some cool things. So if I had my like use user function, a lot of these things take an event, or this H3 event. And so you kind of have to just pass it into a million things, and it gets kind of annoying. With async context, you can get rid of that and do use event.
It's just like a hook.
Yeah. So like, I don't have to pass it in there. Well, I guess we'll just say, just so things don't yell at me.
Should always use unknown instead of any.
Oh my, oh my. I just wanted absolutely no yelling at me.
What to do with .ts files, because it's not just yelling, looking from compiling.
But you love TypeScript, that's why you love it, and so it yells at you, right?
Oh,
I want it to yell at me, not stop.
there's a time and a place for everything, and during my demo, I don't want it. So yeah, it's like I have that require user. I don't have to pass in the event. And what's nice is that if you start having a lot of these things that need the event, it's just like one less thing to keep track of. Restart that. Yeah, but that is technically experimental. So.
Did you make the alias NR, or is that their?
Oh no, that's actually a node package that will check if the project is using npm, pnpm, yarn, or bun, and use the correct one.
Weird.
So I've gotten so used to it because I use pnpm in all my own projects. At work we use npm, and then various other libraries use bun, and so I switch between a bunch of projects, and it's just it made my life simpler, so now I use it all the time.
What is it, that NR thing?
Yeah.
Just so you get another.
It's
It's the npm command or the button command.
or this is what the actual package is
NI.
from Antfu.
Look like it's an NR.
Oh, he changed the. What? Yeah, that one
Yeah,
was
it looks
NR.
like NR. Oh.
It is
It adds a bunch of them. So there's like, so NI is install with whatever package manager
Oh,
this
okay.
thing uses.
R is for run.
Yeah, run, dev, and then like none to uninstall, or there's a few others. Like I think there's like NLX. Yeah, that's like NPX. Just yeah, Oh yeah, Nitro Pack is what the package is called because at the time Nitro was taken, but now you can do npm install Nitro. It's just a mirror of Nitro Pack. They're planning to move over to Nitro, and there's supposed to be like a big update like any day now, and I didn't know that until like a little bit ago. I was like, oh, this might all be irrelevant in a few days. Hopefully not. It's not that big of a change, but we'll see. Oh, another thing I noticed is that Node supports event target now. So when I was messing around with WebSocket stuff, I had this event target, which is in like the same one in the browser. I would just emit or like dispatch an event on that whenever a new comment was created, and then my server sent event endpoint was listening to that event target. So it's kind of like when you would use event mitter, but I was already familiar with the event target API, so I used that, and that's new in like Node 22. Anything else to show in this? Oh yeah, so like that's an example of adding more things to auto import. I have all my templates auto imported. It's like my list item.
Okay, yeah. No, wait, how do we that again?
Right.
Can you easily find the prominent? I guess that's why you're searching for it. You can't easily
Yeah,
find the prominence of the function.
So you have to search for things I can't do for what's reusing it, because then it just gets like to Nitro imports and then it stops.
I hate
So I don't know if there's a fix or workaround for that.
Probably not.
Yeah.
You don't.
Trade-off.
JavaScript fixes it.
Well, it would still pull the definitions from it just
Yeah.
from the JS doc
Oh.
or inherit or whatever, and would put it
If
there.
it's somewhere else, then you end up with a definition, whether it's a .ts or not.
Mm.
Yeah, so I have that list item template in here. I'm referencing it.
I know that I normally have to go into VS Code settings and modify it because I hate when it takes me to the type definition and not the actual code. Like, if I control click something, I want it to go to the,
Yeah.
where the code is written out.
Usually when that's
how
not
would I do
working
that?
for me, I just restart the
Um,
TypeScript server.
Let me look at my settings real quick.
Okay.
And that / closing time is a real thing? What is that?
Oh, yeah, so the templating library is HTM. Mm-hmm.
It's nice.
So it's like a closing of a fragment or something?
Yeah.
It's from the Preact guy.
It's like JSX without the compiler.
Okay, if you open up your user settings,
Okay.
UI,
Whoops.
and you search for editor dot go to location dot, there's alternative definition command, alternative type definition, multiple definitions, and multiple type definitions. And so, I mean, if you wanna look, I've got,
Yeah, I see it here.
you see mine, yeah, so I've got mine set up to
Excuse
reveal
me.
definition, and go to, and go to. And so then, when I click stuff, instead of going to the type definition, it actually goes to the.
Okay, so I've got this other project to demo is actually a Nuxt project. But since Nuxt uses Nitro, it's kind of like showing how
Wait, Nuxt uses Nitro now?
Mhm.
Okay.
that's why Nitro was created for Nuxt.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
for Nuxt 3. Because
Okay.
there was Nuxt 2, that was on Express, and then they did Nuxt 3 and did Nitro while developing Nuxt 3 and made it its own separate thing.
Which, it's been a while since I've tried Nuxt, but if I recall correctly, Nuxt 3 took forever to come out, and is that why they decided halfway through they were rewriting to, I'm assuming Nitro? Or something like that?
I don't know the history of it, but it was something like that. It took forever, but now there's a whole ecosystem.
Mhm.
Oh, I didn't show the. All right, well, maybe we can show it with this. So this is another project. This is a very simple, just like uploader. So it uses basic auth. This is for a baseball thing I do with a bunch of friends. They run a game, and the game gives them this zip file export to export a website for the game. And they upload it here, and then I deploy it somewhere for them. Yeah, so like this one, I've got my a thing called runtime config, and this is kind of how they say to do environment variables.
Wait, we skipped over something important here. There's a baseball related thing that gives people a zipped website for some reason.
It's the stats for the game upload, right?
It's a whole website.
I think
This
you've
is
shown this before.
yeah, because everything I do is for this thing.
Yeah.
It's so the game gave us a whole bunch of HTML files, and these are the HTML files. So like people can go through and see their teams. Like this is my team. And yeah, so like people need to see this, and this is all in a zip file that they send to me, that they upload here. Not actually here, it's actually on another URL that I don't want to give out because it's just basic auth stuff.
Well, you don't trust random people on the internet not to upload stuff?
No.
That's weird.
It uploads to Cloudflare R2, and then it hits a webhook, and I don't remember where I have it going. I went through like
D2.
4 different
It's actually
D1. It goes to some free plan provider that does a static website hosting. And then then it sends a message to our Discord. So like when I'm reading from that, you call the use runtime config function, and it's typed. So like I had my Discord webhook. I mean, they're all going to be strings, but the existence of them is there. And these are all other things that are technically part of the configuration. Yeah, what else was I showing in here? It creates an S3 sign URL. I was using the R2 like binding, but the files got too big for the free tier, so then I just switched to a signed thing. And now, if the person has really crappy internet, it takes forever. But then I can keep using the free tier. So in the next app, they've got it configured to have you have an API folder and a bunch of route definitions, and then you also have like routes. That is, everything under API will have API prefixed. So this is we show an API request. That's not what I want. This one. No, don't use that URL.
It's on video, you're gonna change some stuff.
Yeah, but it'll expire in a little bit. But yeah, it's like these are all prefixed with API, and then I've got some webhook URLs. So these would be /webhooks /deploy failed and deploy succeeded. Yeah, so like I'm doing that in server fetch again to hit the other webhook to do whatever. I think what else I had on here to show off. I guess that basic auth is actually a Nuxt module that just adds stuff to the Nitro server. There's not really like a module scene for Nitro, which is kind of a shame, but it is what it is. comes
There's
in.
not a module scene for it.
Yeah, like people don't really make plugins really for Nitro, even though you can. It seems like mostly they do a plugin for Nuxt or Solid Start or something that just happens to also use Nitro, which is kind of lame. I haven't found any good ones. Yeah. Oh, I guess I could show all the different targets you can build for. So if you go to their documentation, it's nitro.js.io. They have a lot of like built-in providers and runtimes that you can build for. Usually you just set a Nitro preset environment variable and then run the build script. So if I go to that other demo, this one I think I should be able to do a Dino build. Well, so like the default build is just a node server. You can see a preset node server, and it goes through and outputs everything. This is really important to be aware of if you are doing an Edge runtime, because like Cloudflare for workers, there's a max limit on your the JavaScript size, which is kind of new to like node world packages, where it's like I don't know, it doesn't matter that much. Like you can still run it. Nothing's going to prevent you from running it, other than like, I don't know, maybe memory usage, but then you have to have like a really big app for that point. But Nitro and the NGS ecosystem tries to be as minimal as possible to keep your server bundles down. So if we want to do a Dino build, oh, what doesn't it like? Oh, whoops. I did the preview does that node script, but it told me what to use. Whoa. Oh, let's run that again. So to build it, and then we can run it with Dino. You can see it's created a Dino JSON in this output. So this might be something that you would send to, this is what you would include in like your Docker file, is this output folder. Yeah, so let's run that. Oh, it broke. What isn't it like? Oh, because we didn't set an environment variable for see, what I've usually done is just taken a UUID and put that as the password. Oh no, why doesn't it like that? Well, yeah, you can see there's some like weirdness with it. The way it does all the different builds is that it's using a thing called unenv. Right, this is the UnJS website where you can see all the different packages. Cloudflare workers just started using this. They had an update recently. It's essentially the layer that does a lot of like node compatibility.
Is this an alternative to .env?
No, it's
Runtime and
This is like come across a
Yeah.
buffer and turn into a grain array buffer, that sort of thing.
here you go. It's a replacement for Node.js built-ins
Yeah.
for so you can see all the ones that they've dealt with. Some of them are just mocked. But they use that to get all the different runtime providers.
So
And-
it's not specifically for environment variables, it's for the actual environment you're mocking or whatever.
Yeah, it's so if you have your node package and you want it to run in Cloudflare, you can use unenv to mock or otherwise like impersonate the node APIs in a way that'll work with Cloudflare's runtime.
Okay. And so how are you using that?
Through Nitro. Nitro's doing it
Okay.
to get the. It's like I just did a Dino server build.
yeah, run the Cloudflare one and just compare the output differences.
Yeah, so if we do Nitro preset. Yeah, it's like the output up here. There's the Dino JSON, and the server is using. Oh, here we go. Go into the runtime. This is everything that it generates. It's kind of a mess.
Doesn't have to look pretty to run on a machine.
Yep.
And
Yeah, so it's using the Dino serve. This does HTTP2, which is why I was messing around with it with this project. If you want to do like Cloudflare, Pages is the recommended one now. You can build for that.
Yeah, generally bundled or generated code, you're not expecting to be readable. You're expecting it to be
Yeah.
minified or some sort of that.
So you can see that generated. Oh, that went to dist. So this is what it gave us.
Pretty cool. Makes a lot more sense. I was just thinking it was just like an express server, but it's like
At its simplest.
it's an abstraction to several different.
Yeah. And that is, it's a pro, but it's also a con because sometimes it's so over abstracted that you don't get any of the benefits from using.
You lose all the speed
Yeah.
benefits of bond
So-
stuff.
Like, I can build for Dino, but the reason why I want to use Dino is because it has some nice built-in APIs. But I can only use it at like after I've built it, at runtime after I built it. I can't use it during development because the development server is running with Node, and it doesn't work with Dino yet. Might work with Bun. Let's see. Oh my gosh, it works with Bun. We're getting there. I don't think it used to.
I mean, Dino has so many restrictions that if you're not like that, I mean, does it, I guess I haven't used Dino in a while, but I assume they still have the allow networking, allow file system, allow whatever, like.
Oh, it started the server. Oh, look at that.
Sweet.
Wait, that's not doing any like trickery, is it? It's not just using
I mean,
Node.
Dino and Bun now have Node APIs though, so.
No, it's calling the Nitro CLI. Oh my gosh, it's working. I take my words back. You can kind of use Dino with it now. Oh, maybe it was Nuxt that it doesn't work with yet. Because Nuxt has the whole like Vite pipeline and other stuff that.
I was gonna ask, like, what is, like, if you were in full bore Nitro config, you probably wouldn't worry about having a beat build.
Yeah. Although one thing you could do to like work around those things where, if for whatever reason, so in production I want to use Cloudflare's R2 for file storage, but during development I want to use just my file system. There's a dev storage, so in development users will be file system, but if I want to do Cloudflare R2, that's all you change. But because the abstraction is still that key value API, you're limited to that. But you can get things into R2 without much of your application code caring about it.
But you could also run Wrangler on the dev machine to do like the local like R2 kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think it will actually do that for me. If I just well, I guess we could do KV, but yeah, we'll do KV. It'd be funny if I tried to run it with Dino to do the Cloudflare KV in development. What is it like?
Object storage throwing stuff, so it's probably trying to use like the real.
Oh, because I don't have a Wrangler config. No, wait. Wait, I do have one. Do I need to set something here? So that storage is from a package called unstorage. A con to this whole Nitro thing is that there's like a million different documentation websites to find all this info.
So couple
Yeah. So we go to the Cloudflare binding. Oh, do I have to provide binding storage? Let's try that. No. Where? Well, that should work in production though. Oh wait, I think I already had it below. Just commented out. Yeah. Just messing around with things yesterday.
pretty sweet though, like having that ability of switching providers, not like pigeonholing yourself onto a certain platform. But
Yeah, and there's a project called Nuxt Hub, which is geared towards doing Nuxt using Nitro on Cloudflare's infrastructure. And that's a really cool project. Oh, right, that's on a different URL. Nah, it still doesn't like it.
never-ending evolution of web strategies.
And one other demo. This one's got a lot of crap in it.
Something just like sticking in my GUI little browser side, client side world.
Yeah. Okay, so this is another Nuxt project because I do a lot of Vue, but I still do a lot of similar things in those other ones. Let's actually check out. I was messing with libsql and terso and those things because you can do a libsql storage this thing. Here. Let's get this set up.
LibSQL, like on top of SQLite or something.
Yeah, so libsql is a fork of SQLite. That's what, you know, Terso? That's what Terso is using. It's like SQLite, but with some stuff in it. You can run WebAssembly in it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they're doing some interesting things. Here we go. Oh, wait. Hold on. We need to install first. There, you can see it's starting the Vivint server, then the Nitro server. And so what Nuxt is doing is like connecting a lot of Vivint
So
things.
he's focused on building the client side stuff and
Yeah, I think it will also manage like piping the server rendered client stuff into the Nitro server, and then the Nitro server will take things from there to get it to the client. Zoom out a bit. Is that too small? Okay. All right, so this is another baseball related one. This is using another experimental thing. Do I need to zoom in a bit?
no, his font size is like 0.5.
It's 100%, it's no block pixels.
So there's another UnJS project called DB0. I don't know why their doc site didn't come up. It's a little SQL tool. I know you guys are talking about this. Something that sounded like this. So it's like a tag template function. Has your SQL whatevers, and then you can set up a bunch of connectors to run your whatever. So the same idea, like being able to swap out providers.
Just database abstraction.
Yeah, this is very new though. They are still working on a lot of these. Yeah, like Terso is not available, but libsql is, which is weird because Terso is using libsql. Yeah, there's Postgres. It's another abstraction. And then I had to change things a little bit because Nitro will provide one through the auto import. It's by default Nitro configures it to use SQLite. So you just have this use database auto import. I had to change it a little bit, but since in my utils I'm exporting a function with the same name, I didn't have to like update a bunch of stuff, so that was kind of neat. One benefit of an auto import was that one very specific refactoring. But yeah, it's like there's a runtime config again. But I'm using that to run some like this is how I'm doing migrations, because this project is kind of weird. The idea of it was for these very tech illiterate people to continue doing their baseball stuff after I lose interest, or like if somebody in there is like they know enough to like go to a server that they should hopefully be able to run this. So that's why I was using SQLite. This branch is using libsql just for playing around with it. So the flow that they'll do is that, so that game will also give that other export. It also can give you a bunch of CSV exports. and they'll go through and select those. Out of the park. That's the game. 24 is the one that I've been using. I'm not even that big into baseball, but it gave an opportunity to build cool things.
Yeah, baseball isn't cool, but tech is.
Yeah, the stats are cool. Nope, that's not what we want. We want these things.
So, is this for an actual video game, or is it for like fantasy league or something?
No, it's an actual
Real
game. It's like the world in the game can be based on the real world or completely fake. Like in our game world, Salt Lake City's the biggest city on the planet. That's where my team is, and I got the biggest budget. People call it the spreadsheet game because that's what it looks like. It's just stats, numbers everywhere. But like that website doesn't it doesn't give a rating anywhere. It only gives the raw stats. But the game, when we watch it in our Discord, the game shows ratings everywhere, and it's confusing. We just don't have anywhere to like reference them. Oh, I uploaded the wrong ones. These are all my test ones, so the pictures aren't going to work. See if we can do the real ones. I think these ones are working. But what I'm doing, so like they'll upload, I'll save the files with unstorage. So I have a files storage, and that is using the FS driver or FS Lite. That's just a more optimized version of FS. You can set the stream directly, so I can get the form data and just shove it in there. And then once it's uploaded, it'll hit this database put route. And this is my authentication or authorization function, where it'll get our, it's using that use event that I showed earlier, so I don't have to pass in that event everywhere. Just checks what role they are. And this one's doing, there's another Nux module for authorization, but it's saving all the user data to that SQLite database. And then it will wipe every table in the database because every single data point has now changed because of the new export. And then it'll blow away all the indexes and all that. And then we read from that storage. So I'm using that file storage again. And I'm getting the plain text in this one. So I'm not getting like a reference to the file object. It's already extracted the text from it. If I wanted to get the actual like, if I wanted to do like some kind of streaming, I would do get item raw. So I'm parsing that to get the CSV data, or to get the stats out of the CSV. And then using that database DB0 helper, this thing, to run a bunch of queries. And then I've got other things running in here too, to like create all the tables. Thank goodness we have AI, because I was not writing all that by hand. And then here I'm telling it to clear the cache, the browser side cache. So I setting a response header on the event. It's a I guess you could say kind of more functional way of passing things around. Yeah, and then there's my cache storage, which we're also clearing. Because in my route handlers, we've got all of the teams data and the player data we're caching for, was that 5 minutes, I think? Yeah, or this will actually be the API responses.
But, yeah, clearing the cache on and upload makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. Because at one point I had this using Terso, and I didn't want to use up all my free stuff. So if I cache it for a little bit, that just helps reduce usage. And this thing's only going to change like once a day. So yeah, so I can just like blanket cache everything this way rather than having to go in and use that cached function or cached event handler. You can also do redirects. It's like if you go to the redirects.
So switching over to S3 off of R2 was cheaper. Do they have like a larger free tier or something? You're
For
saying
me?
something about like signed URLs on S3 buckets.
Oh, no, so you can use the AWS CLI or the SDK with R2. I've always used R2. R2's been great. The issue I had was actually with Cloudflare pages, because you can have it. I had it downloading the zip file from R2 and extracting it. It was a simple node script that would extract the contents, and then Cloudflare knew like what to upload, which was everything. It got to a point where there were too many files for it to upload, for whatever reason.
It's more the pages limitation of R2.
Yeah, R2 is fine. I moved from Cloudflare pages, I did to render, and then I quickly got to render's limit because it's only a little bit higher than pages.
That's a point about Nitro, is you can round robin your
Yeah,
process.
for my cheapo use case, it's been great. I think right now I'm actually doing Netlify's.
Yeah, just like rotate like through months or something, or
We could probably look at the Git history of this file to see all of that.
that's funny.
We'll go to how do I get to the pretty view? This one? Or like file history view. There we go. Oh no, that wouldn't be for this project. That would be for the upload one. Yeah, this one has gone through a lot of databases. At one point, I was using SurrealDB, but I went to SQLite because that's just easier for people to manage because there is nothing to manage, really.
Well, okay, but what the problem with SQLite is that every SQL language is completely different and incompatible.
That's why I use DB0's API.
Well,
Yeah.
but so if you were to pick, Postgres is just the way to go, right? Like unless you know you need something different, Postgres is the way to go. Because at some point, someone's going to want their database to not be on. At some point, you need more than one instance, or you have some other constraint where your application needs to execute on a separate instance from where the data is stored. And if you're using SQLite, then that means that you've pigeonholed yourself into a SQL language that only works. Well, I guess there are now wrappers over SQLite that allow it to work cross-computer, but those aren't, I don't know.
Well, in my use case, I want SQLite because I don't want to have to help somebody troubleshoot a Postgres connection or issue.
Have you heard of
Where-
webinstall.dev?
they're not going to use a web install. These are for my friends who are not technical at all. So I need
They're
like
all playing
absolute
baseball.
simplicity.
They're not on a computer, they're outside playing baseball.
It's like basically if
Well,
I
how
can
are
tell
they,
them,
How are they installing this? Why don't you just install Postgres as part of it?
well, it's all in a Docker image.
What is this baseball you speak of? Is that one of those things that happens in the outdoors?
It's a Docker image. Right now I've got it
Okay.
on Fly, so
So
it's like
you're using Postgres because you're literally never going to use this outside of an embedded context.
yep.
So what if you want to reuse this code somewhere else? You want to copy and paste and like,
I've,
have a good boilerplate stuff.
I've thought about like if other people would want to do this for their own, because other people do these kind of baseball
Football
communities.
players wanna have,
Yeah.
football app.
Like, how would I take this and make it like multi-tenant?
I don't want you playing no foosball.
Yeah, let's see if the Dino build. I believe it worked yesterday.
Surreal has a pretty sweet multi-tenant stuff.
Which
wait.
is the one that
No.
makes SQLite a cloud database? Is that Surreal?
That's
Terso.
Terso.
Terso, okay.
That's where they build SQL. So SQLite is the most performing database.
Yeah.
But that's because,
Like not scale, it's just a file on your computer, and however fast your computer is, you got it, and or whatever computer is running it. So
like most people will never need more than SQLite in terms of performance and scale. The problem is that we often need to separate the storage from the execution. Like there's some sort of fundamental nature to what was it, von Neumann architecture versus, what are the two things? Like this is a computer science issue that's come up, von Neumann versus, so our CPUs are one style of architecture, but our deployments are the other style. Okay, Harvard architecture. Von Neumann and Harvard architectures are the two fundamental designs for stored. Von Neumann architecture is what you use for CPUs. Code and data share the same memory space and buses. Harvard architecture is what we end up using for cloud services. Code and data have separate memory spaces and buses. And I don't know how to articulate why that is, but it's like a natural pattern that happens over and over again, which is why, like on a CPU is 100% localized. Having everything in von Neumann architecture seems to be the thing that everyone gravitates towards. But as soon as we're talking about networks, Harvard architecture is what everyone gravitates towards. And I think that there's something fundamental
Yes.
about the way that data wants to be organized, or lends itself to, that causes this separation in these different contexts.
Yeah, the deep reason is the diminishing returns that come from increasing your CPU capacity in one machine. Like, if you want more CPU, you get multiple machines, not one machine with a mega CPU. Which means you want to be able to scale up your code with multiple instances, which you can't do with a database because you lost your single source of truth if you do that.
So I agree with you there, but most people don't have a Facebook-sized business. Any business that just runs in the United States can run on a single computer. There's very few businesses that cannot run it. Like McDonald's, everything that they do can run on a single computer. Walmart, because they bought Jet.com, maybe everything that they do can't run on a single computer, but they're nowhere near as popular as Amazon. I bet that everything that Walmart does could run on a single computer.
It seems a very strong computer. Like your concurrency is limited by the number of CPUs. If you have a supercomputer, then maybe you have 500 CPUs in that thing.
I don't think it's your CPUs. I think it would end up being your bandwidth. It's just like serving the Walmart logo would be your limiting factor. Because think about what Walmart does. Anyway, my point is that this pattern, I don't think it emerges because of the CPU limit. I think it emerges because of some. And the Harvard architecture was proposed for personal computers. So they weren't proposing Harvard architecture for networks because I don't believe that networks existed at the time of the Harvard versus von Neumann architecture debate. I could be wrong. I need to look up the dates on that and learn more about it. But there's something about the property of this is executable versus this is permanent that lends itself towards these two things being separate in the context of network applications. And I agree with you 100% that when the CPU is the limiting factor, it forces this, but I don't think that it's what causes it to appear in nature.
Okay.
Can we time out this sidebar, and is there more to your presentation?
One last thing I wanted to
Oh,
show
okay.
is the Dino server doing HTTP2 by default. This website actually works with the Dino build. I didn't show the build because to do the environment variables, I have to put them in line, and I didn't want to leak my Terso token because with the libsql one, I can use my Terso database, and it'll work with the Dino build.
Why not use .env?
Because I couldn't remember the command to load that into memory.
That's a valid reason.
So I
think
just
Dino
copy
has it
paste
built in,
into
right?
the shell.
Doesn't Dino and Bun have .env built in now?
Yes, but I don't have access. Well, I don't have an easy way to add a Dino script into the build because of how Nitro abstracts all that away, which is a pain. But it's also nice.
Silly library.
It's
Have a secrets.json, fs read file JSON called JSON parse on it. Get your secrets.
yeah, I don't.
So why doesn't it use H3? I thought Nitro uses H3. I'm not being funny. I'm legitimately curious.
By the way, Todd says, cool stuff, Caleb.
Oh, hello, Todd. This is H3.
I
This is the
believe
routing
more of
parts.
this here.
Those like event handler things. Define event handler. That's H3. That's really the express part equivalent. Nitro uses that to handle the HTTP routing. And H3 is the letter H. The 3 represents TTP.
So they say.
Yeah, see, there you go. Short for HTTP, pronounced however you pronounce that.
And it says like H3.
Yeah, pronounced as. Is there anything to show?
I think it's H3.
Is HTTP 3 officially released, or is it still in like a beta or whatever?
I believe it's official. It's in Chrome. It's in Caddy.
I know that the Google APIs use HTTP3.
They renamed it from Quick to HTTP3. So
Oh.
Speedy was HTTP2 when it was in beta. The Quick was HTTP3 when it was in beta. Now it's called HTTP3.
Okay.
It's old out for rapid.
The quick framework was all like encroaching on the quick name.
So when are we getting
too many quicks.
HTTP4, and how do I take advantage of it now?
I don't know. And how does AI fit into it?
An H4 tag should be nested with an H3 tag, so below an H3 tag.
Yeah, Lighthouse tells me that.
I don't know. That's all I got. I think that's all I got to like demo. There's a lot of other stuff that I probably forgot,
Oh, that was awesome.
but
Very educational.
if you are wanting to build for like Cloudflare workers or Dino deploy or all these other serverless runtimes, Lambdas, I'd recommend looking into Nitro. The other biggest alternative is probably Hono.
Yeah, what's Hono about?
It's kind of is in the same niche as this with like serverless. I lost my
Yeah,
cursor.
I think I've tinkered with Hono before, but hadn't tried Nitro.
Hono is much more straightforward.
What the heck is Cody?
Huh? Oh, that's my search engine I pay for. It's fast. It does private searches. It's good searches.
Is it better than Brave?
I haven't used Brave Search in a long time.
Oh, yeah, I mostly use Brave Search now.
It's nice because I can like toggle biases.
Interesting.
Yeah, Brave has that, but they call it goggles, and it's not as intuitive as a flip switch. Or maybe it is, and I just haven't enabled it.
I don't really remember why I've been using this for a long time. I forgot why I even got in the first place.
Well, I've been paying for Brave, but I would be willing to pay for something else if it was, awesome.
This is like $10 a month.
Like straight.
Um, It's all, I don't know.
Brave.
I honestly don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah, Hono,
Kagi, not Kogi?
Kaji,
Kaji,
I think.
K-A-G-I.
Yeah.
I was searching K-O-G-I, and I'm like, barbecues.
Yeah, Hono is more like a direct competitor to this. Like if you're doing it just to have a server, that's more would fit. But Nitro is also geared as like a toolkit, which is why like Next, Solid Start, Analog, all those other meta frameworks are using it because it's easier to like integrate with those complex build systems and Beat and all that. Now that you can't with Hono, they have what is it, Hono X? I think is their example of it. Yeah. See, and they also have some file-based routing, but they're this is like an opinionated thing. You're using JSX and stuff. Maybe this is more of a Nuxt competitor than a Nitro competitor. Hono X,
What?
anyway.
What is this under? I can't actually
Oh,
read
sorry.
the URL. Okay, Hono.js.
Oh, that doesn't zoom in that part.
I mean, I can see it when you zoom in there, and I can kind of make it out now, but, yeah.
Yeah. Woo, that's Nitro. Show the pretty picture again.
Sweet.
For a minute, I was so scared because I looked back at the screen and it was the same screen that you had started with, and I was like, no, it didn't freeze. But then, in the time that it took me to move my eyes, you had gone back to the original screen. So, all's good. Well, thanks for enlightening us with that. My
Brain dump.
apologies for my completely predictable behavior.
Oh, Cross WS, that's a cool one. That's WebSockets across multiple environments.
Wait, what's it called?
Cross WS.
Oh.
Since we have a standard for this, why do we need libraries for it?
I don't know. Let's see. Wait, oh, I
Why
wasn't taking to the
42?
documentation.
The implication is that there is not a standard, like it's different across different runtimes. Is that correct?
Elegant type simple interface to platform agnostic WebSocket servers.
Yeah,
Servers.
I think that already exists. It's called WebSocket.
WS for,
Except
oh,
WebSocket
well,
doesn't
because that's only in
have
Node 22 that
Yeah.
Node has that.
So it's not available.
I know
It's
I
part of
tried-
JavaScript.
Well, I tried it on
Well,
Node
oh.
semi-recently in the last year or so. I guess that might not be semi-recently. Depends on how old you are. It's semi-recent to me. But it didn't work. I couldn't use what MDN was saying the new WebSocket API was. It wasn't working in Node in the version I tried, and that
Well-
was within the last year.
That's how I did that stuff with Dash, is I just used the Node API. So
Oh, this says there is no standard.
What?
Well, for WebSocket servers.
Oh, WebSocket server, yes.
Yeah.
That, yes, I'm talking.
Oh, because Node 22 got a WebSocket client.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, I tried to do a server on Node 22 and it wasn't, there was no server, so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think the server would be the whatever implementation works with the client.
mm.
Oh, I didn't show off how you like actually build into Nitro, because that's something that I'm still figuring out. But they do this whole hook-based system, and it's very confusing and poorly documented. So I don't
That's
really.
the best kind of system. That's how you know it's good.
It's
It's like TypeScript.
TypeScript isn't poorly documented.
Agree to disagree.
Go back to that picture and look at other cool things. Oh, wait, I think I was on this one. Go back.
Okay, let's look at some TypeScript.
Alright, I'll stop the online thing.
Oh, yeah, they have a city that's a CLI framework.